I'm Robin Hoffmann. I volunteer with the Cortland County Historical Society. And this is...
I'm Dan Edwards. I'm a detective sergeant with the City Police Department in Cortland.
Hi, and I'm Mike Catalano. I'm the police chief here in Cortland.
Okay. All right, so I guess my first question would be, what do you think has been the most important, dramatic, or largest change in Cortland in 60 years? And I would say, apropos of police work, law enforcement.
In my opinion, I think the largest change has been the lack of meaningful jobs in Cortland and the rise in drug abuse in Cortland.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if the chief feels the same way, but the drug problem is tenfold what it used to be when I first came on the job.
Mm-hmm.
Well, 60 years is a long time. I think one of the most dramatic changes that I've seen is the loss of manufacturing jobs, and along with that blue collar type work is the loss of population. When you lose that kind of population and that influx of income, it creates a vacuum where maybe a lower socioeconomic population comes in, and of course that definitely puts a higher drain on services, especially police.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. So what do you think you enjoy or appreciate the most in this area, in the Cortland County area, really?
What I enjoy and what I have enjoyed over the last 20 years here is the sporting events, and I play softball on 2 different teams, and I've played with prominent people in the community: Paul Mazzone, Mike Hammond, Jim Beatty. They're all prominent people in the community, and we had a great group of guys, and I enjoy playing softball. My favorite place in Cortland is Dexter Park at the softball field, and it's just one of the best umpires ever, Jim Parginoni. He used to umpire the games in a chair at first base when he got older, and he's passed away, and the field's named after him now. But it's a good time. I still play to this day. I don't know how much longer, but I'm gonna keep trying.
You've got a ways to go there, Dan.
I hope so.
Chief?
I like the small town atmosphere.
Mm-hmm.
Cortland still has that. We're not a large city or area, and the small town atmosphere is what I enjoy. It's what I've always known because I've grown up here. It's a safe place to live. It's a safe place to work, and it's a safe place to raise your family. All of which I have done, and I enjoy that. I really like being located in the center of the state. When you live in Cortland, you can travel almost any direction and get to any other part of the state in about the same amount of time. Going way up north to the St. Lawrence River is a little bit different. Like Plattsburgh, it is quite a ways away, but you can get almost anywhere you want to within a 2 to 3 hour radius just by leaving home in Cortland, which is very nice. And it's just a beautiful area. It's got hills and valleys and wooded areas and wildlife and a river. It's got everything that you need. The scenery is great, and the weather. Sometimes the winter gets a little harsh, but the weather is good. We don't have any real disastrous weather. Mm-hmm. We have all 4 seasons, full 4 seasons, where there's recreation. You could do in any of them, whether it's skiing or hunting or anything, hiking. It's all there. Boating, fishing.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I like about
Cortland.
Yeah.
Up there on the hill.
Yeah, right. Are you both gentlemen? Are you born and raised in Cortland or Cortland County?
I was born and raised in Appalachian, New York, which is about 45 minutes south of here, down near Binghamton. And I moved here in 1989, and so I've been here, 27, 28 years.
Yeah, so. Time. And Dan, for you for a second, I know that you received some commendations in your career. Awards, yes?
I have. The chief has given me a nickname as a hound dog, and I try to live up to that nickname. I do the best job I can for the community that I work in. I feel that I've made Cortland a safer place to live, and I go to work every day thinking, I could do it again. So I do try to work my cases as hard as I can. I enjoy my job still, and that's why I'm still working after 20 years. A lot of guys retire after 20 years, but I enjoy what I do, and I don't know what I would do if I wasn't at work. I'd sit around the house and do nothing. So I go to work every day and do the best I can. I don't know if the chief thinks I do the best I can, but I try.
I have a feeling he does.
Could you tell us a little bit about what you do?
Well, I investigate major cases for the Cortland Police Department. Anything that's a felony level case or a high profile case for the department, or if the patrolmen need help, if they're struggling with something or they need help, I'll jump in and help them out. And we I think we have a really good police department. I think all the guys mesh together really well, and I think they really do care about the community they work in, and I enjoy working. So that's what we do.
Mm-hmm.
And how about you, Chief?
Oh yes, I've lived here all of my life. I grew up on the south end of town. My parents were immigrants from Italy. So we started brand new in this country, but on the south end there were a lot of Italians at that time when my parents came. They didn't come together from Italy, they came separately and met here in Cortland. And they stayed in Cortland their whole life. They worked in factories, they did what they had to do to survive. Wickwire Brothers was a huge employer in Cortland at that time, and I know a lot of my family, and my father specifically, spent most of his life working there at Wickwires, and they provided for the family. But it's a great place to grow up. I've spent my whole life here. It's home, and I've always enjoyed it. And I took a liking to the idea of policing and the uniform at a very young age. There were some other officers that were familiar with our family. We grew up in a duplex, all relatives, a big house with a huge amount of kids and people in just one house. And one of our relatives had a brother who was on the police department, and I was just fascinated with the uniform and just the idea of being able to help people, those that are less fortunate or are not in a position to help themselves. I had that mindset from a very young age, and of course then I tried to live that kind of life as I went to school and college, all here locally, and got involved in sports, tried to keep myself healthy, and when the opportunity came to work for our police department, I jumped at it.
That's great. Thank you. Well, let's see what else we have here. Do you have a favorite time, a favorite moment in your life growing up or in your adult life?
Well, probably the birth of my children. I have 4 awesome kids. They're doing well. I miss them. They're moved away a little bit, but I still see them on a regular basis. So, but that's probably my favorite time was growing up, raising my kids when they were little. I wish they could stay 10 for the rest of their lives, but they don't. They grow up and the problems get bigger.
Yeah, they do. And then they get better after that.
I hope so.
Trust me. So right now in the present, do you have a favorite place? You said the park where you play softball.
Yeah, probably playing softball in the summertime and the spring, summertime is probably my favorite. Spending time with my friends in the park is one of my favorite times. Probably one of my favorite restaurants is an establishment, the Red Dragon in Cortland. I play for them. I played for their softball team for almost 20 years.
Oh.
They have 2 different teams. I played on both teams. So, yeah, that. And I occasionally am found at Cortland's bowling on Sunday nights with my wife. So.
Nice. And Chief, do you have any place that you can think of that would be stand out?
Well, I've had a lot of favorite times in all of my years here, but I often think back to when I was in high school. Of course, Cortland was the only home I've ever known, and I was proud to say that I went to school at Cortland High. When we were at any sporting events where you went to different venues, I always felt proud that we were from Cortland. We had good sports teams back then, and they had a pretty good reputation. And I'll never forget that our varsity football team, the year that I was a senior, we went undefeated as a football team, and we were the very last team to play on Randall School Field. And from that point on, they built a new high school and field up at the current location, which I never set foot on while I was in school. So that's always a favorite memory. Some of my buddies that I played with and went to school with, they're still around too, so every now and then we reminisce.
Now, was that where the softball field is now? The Randall?
Yes, that's part of it, yes. And now it's a little bit of a park, but most of it is that field.
What position did you play in football?
I was an offensive tackle, a lineman, yeah. I was the biggest kid on the team.
Do you have any other questions, Sharon? Sorry.
Well, is there anything that you'd like to add to what you said?
That would be great.
Well, the only thing I can think of is Cortland needs some work. I mean, the drug problem, we're addressing it as aggressively as we can, but I think it needs to be addressed at a much younger level. I think it needs to be addressed in education and in social services. It's not a problem that the police can solve, and it needs to be addressed in different avenues than just enforcement. And right now, it's not being addressed. Legislators, I think, should enact a law that's I forget what they call it in other counties, but where people have to be here and live here and be community members for a certain period of time. Residency requirement is what it's called, and we don't have one in Cortland, and other counties do. And that way, people aren't moving here just for social services. They're moving here because they got a job or because they family members or something. And I think that's a conversation for later on, but I think Cortland has a bright future, and there's a lot of good people here, and I think we'll figure it out.
That sounds great.
How about you, Chief?
Well, I think the future is in our hands. Everybody that lives in Cortland now, I always try to think favorably. I'm a little bit of an optimistic person. I try to be anyways. We need to provide good paying jobs for young people to stay here, want to live here, and have a family here. And we need quality housing for those young professionals. There just really isn't enough of it in Cortland. And we need to focus on those things. We need to focus on the quality of life issues. I know that the police department takes care of those as much as possible. The little things we just don't turn our head on. We try to take care of it to keep as clean of a community as we want. And as Dan mentioned, drugs is a scourge, but it's a scourge everywhere in this country right now. It's not just Cortland, but we're feeling it just as much as anybody else, and it's difficult. It's difficult because it takes a lot of resources, a lot of times, and it's an ugly situation. And it isn't something that law enforcement can just solve on its own. But I don't like to just focus on that. This is a national problem. When it comes to Cortland, I think we still have a lot to offer, and I think it's a great place to live, and we have to work on those strengths. We have to bring in young professionals and give them a place to live and be proud of being here.
And sort of jumping off from that, what do you see as far as the future of Cortland? What do you see happening in the next 60 years, maybe?
Well,
Or 10 or 20?
if we can solve some of those problems, I think Cortland has a bright future, and I think we have the people here that can solve the problem. I've seen a lot of community activists and members that are really into Cortland, and if we can keep that going, I think it has a strong future. We'll have our ups and downs, but overall, over the 27 years I've been here, it really hasn't changed that much as far as the people, other than the loss of jobs really hurt Cortland, and it took a while to come back from that. And I think Cortland's, because of our central location and because of our importance to other areas, to Ithaca and Cornell and to Binghamton and to Syracuse, I mean, Cortland's kind of an important location, a dropping off spot for all three of those areas, and I think we'll survive.
Mm. Chief, do you have any thoughts about that?
I think one of the greatest qualities and benefits we have too is the college. The SUNY Cortland is one of the best SUNY colleges in New York State, and very highly regarded, and it's got great academics, and it brings in good people, employees as well as students, and that's a bright spot for us, I think, to have a higher educational institution like that. At times as police officers, when we have to deal with them on a different occasion, sometimes it can, skew your thoughts a little bit. But when you look at the whole picture, it's wonderful to have SUNY Cortland right here within our city. I know that could be the envy of a lot of communities, to have a four-year college like that right here. And I think we're going to be fine in Cortland. Like Dan said, we're going to have our ups and downs. But it's just a beautiful area. The parks, as a kid, I would get on my bike and we'd go to all the parks and learned how to swim at Suggett Park. We'd ride out to Yamey Park and have fun there. Beaudry Park was in my backyard. And anybody, I think, that comes through the community and through the heart of the city or by the college has got to take notice of the waterworks. It's just pretty. It's like an Adirondack scene almost, right in the middle of the city. You've got the pond and the deer and the ducks and the trees and that nice fence along the sidewalk. There are some bright spots, and just outside the city you have Little York Dwyer Park, and I have a lot of memories with that place. It's a nice place to go and relax, and I love it here. A lot of people say, well, what will you do when you retire? Where are you going? And I said, I'm not going anywhere. This is home. Cortland is home. It's my favorite place. It's the only home I've known. So.
Did you have children?
Yes.
Are they in the area?
I have 3 grown children. My one daughter, she does live here in the city. One son lives in Binghamton and another son is in Pennsylvania. And it's jobs that brought them away from here or kept them here. So that's key.
Dan?
My kids are all in the Rochester area. One of them, they both graduated. 2 of them, my oldest ones graduated from RIT, and they took jobs. Obviously, that's what took them away from here. Is one's working at the University of Rochester. The other one is still finding his way. And my daughter's working up in the Rochester area, and my son is currently in the United States Army Reserves. He's going through the ROTC program at St. John Fisher, and the ROTC is actually a RIT, but he's doing his classes at St. John Fisher. When he graduates next year, he'll be commissioned into the Army as a 2nd lieutenant, and he plans on going into the Army Rangers, and so I'm sure he will not be home anytime soon. But I worry about him, but I'm proud of him, so.
Sure. Yeah, I think that's how we all feel.
Yeah.
That's wonderful. Go ahead.
I just have one more question.
Sure, yeah.
Do you think you'll get a new police building?
Boy, I hope so, because my office is really small.
In the next 60 years, you don't want to be sitting down there.
I'm sure hoping. I happen to be going through some old press releases that we keep on file in my office, and I remember being interviewed by the Cortland Standard when I first became chief, and in that interview, and I think it was almost a headline when he interviewed me, I mentioned that we need another place. We're just too outgrown for where we are now. It was a good place for a police department when they built City Hall in the 60s, but completely and woefully inadequate now. But it's a big nut to crack, and we all understand that. But I keep hoping and driving, and I have the ear of our local politicians, and they understand. It's just a difficult thing to come to fruition, but I won't give up until after I retire.
And even then, you can still speak out. Maybe even more freely.
Yeah, right.
I can.
And I think that's all I have. Anything else that you guys would like to add to this?
No, I just don't give up on Cortland. I think it's a great place.
That's all right.
Yeah,
I chose this over 3 other job opportunities that I was given. I was actually hired in Elmira and Binghamton, and I drove to each place, and I drove to Cortland, and I said, hands down, I'd rather work in Cortland than Elmira. And I quit the job, got hired on Wednesday in Elmira, and I quit on Friday. And took a chance on Cortland, and I'm glad I did.
We all are.
And I take a lot of pride in being in charge of our police department and working for the police department for the number of years that I have, which is a lot. I think we do good things, we try to do good things, and we try to stay on our A game and treat everybody with respect and fairly. And we're never just going to give up. There's always going to be somebody who needs our help, and we're going to be there. We're going to be there to do that. And I don't just think of the city of Cortland. I think of the entire area, the town that surrounds us, in the village of Homer, and the whole county. We're not so large that we can't look at the whole picture. And I'd like to boast. I think we have the best department in the county, and we're professional. We're fully accredited now. So I'm happy with that. And we'll keep up the good work. Got guys like Dan working in the bureau. I'm almost hands off with my detective bureau. They're so efficient and good at what they do. They make my job easy. So, and that's for most of the department. But the bureau.
Can I get a raise on this?
Well, you have to ask the city politicians.